Welcome to episode 27 of our podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on the last week or two, both with us doing some visiting and also what's going on with the cases. We also want to talk mostly about how we can get information from you that we really need. So we'll talk about that in a little while, but we want to start off talking about our visit last week to Salt Lake. Of course, we did a live from Marissa's bookstore there in Salt Lake, voted the best bookstore in all of Salt Lake City. And both there and in Provo, we got to meet some of our Optimists. Adam, give us some of your reactions to meeting these great people?
Well, first, my lighting is really bad. I can see it right now on the camera. Your lighting actually looks good. So I don't know what to do with this lighting, but I have a light right on me, but it's only like cutting me off. But anyway, sorry. I digress. Yes, I mean, I got to say, I was super excited to meet people that are into the podcast, and that some people that were there, I think maybe everybody there has joined the Facebook group. And we see comments on the Facebook group. We see comments on our email. We see comments on YouTube with all the Optimists all over the world, which to me, this thing is worldwide. It's pretty amazing. And to be able to go somewhere and have people come together and talk about, the podcast and talk about the book and talk about their lives. I just feel like we're super blessed to be part of this. I know it started on a whim with Rex and I, but and we talk about this all the time, how this has developed into something that we're trying to grab a hold of, this thing it's running away. And Rex and I, why we were there in Salt Lake. And by the way, there was supposed to be snowstorms there, and there never really was a snowstorm, was there?
Not where we were.
Yeah.
Saw uplift flurries, but is pretty clear and cold.
I will tell you this, Rex did pick a very nice Verbo we stayed at, and I was like, that was amazing. I got to get in the hot tub every morning and loved it. So we had a great time while we were there. We got to visit also the Other Side Village, where we've had Robbie and Brian on as guests early, like maybe a couple months ago. And they talked about it, and Rex and I actually got to see it firsthand and video it. So that podcast will be coming out pretty soon. So you guys can see from the people that actually work there behind the scenes, how it actually works, how it affects that community, how it affects people who have had down luck.
And we talked to a couple of the neighbors there, they call them. People have only been there a little while. They're transitioning, but they have hope after 30 years of being homeless and having mental illness challenges. Now they have a program that's giving them hope, like maybe this program's going to work like it's worked for so many others. It is so inspiring to be there and talk to these people. We're looking forward to sharing that with you.
Yeah, so that podcast will come out pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that.
We're asking Sean to do some splicing and putting different things together. Adam has a new dream of being a television producer now as he talking about different ways to put it together. So that one's going to take a little longer than our normal podcast.
And we shot it in a way that I thought would be cool, but maybe it doesn't even come out like that at all. And by the way, Sean's like, look, I'm a radio audio guy. I'm not a video guy. And I'm like, okay, Sean, but you know how to do that, right? He goes, that's not my forte. So maybe this podcast never comes out. Well, we're going to blame it on Sean if it doesn't. Anyways.
We'll find someone to do it.
Yeah. But anyways, that was part of our visit. And we also got to go to Provo and visit as well. And we got to talk to some of our family members. We got to talk to some Optimists that showed up. And so Provo and Salt Lake, both, Utah was a great experience for us. So we, on the scale from 1 to 10, I'm putting it at 10 just because it was so great to meet, to talk to people. And so this podcast that we're doing tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of things, but one of the main things Rex and I are going to talk about is what can we do on this podcast that is beneficial for you? So I asked several people that I met on Friday night and Saturday in Provo and in Salt Lake. All of them were Optimists. All of them, have, and everybody says, I've seen all your episodes. There was one family there where the wife had seen every episode and the husband's never seen one, and he was coming to see what this is all about. So other than that, everybody has pretty much, knows our podcast. So with that being said, I asked several people, what do you like about our podcast? And then what would you need from us on our podcast? What, give us some inside scoop of where are Rex and I going to drive this bus? Because the bus is full of everybody. Rex and I are just kind of like driving it so we can get to a destination. And is it?
I don't even know if we're driving it. I think we're trying to catch up to the bus, like we're running on behind. It's moving without us.
Yeah.
We need to see what we can do to get on board and to help the cause a little bit.
So with that being said, some of our podcast tonight is going to be about that. What do you need? And as I asked this question, Rex, to our Optimist, I got several different answers from different people. Some of our podcasts has really struck a chord with some of the Optimists about different things that we talked about, which then was going to branch off into a whole other thing. One of them, as I talked to this Optimist, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't know who doesn't want me to talk about what, who it is and what they're about. But I will say this. I was talking to one of our Optimists who saw the episode with Denise. And I was talking about, Denise and her situation. And I mentioned like in the second episode, I didn't really go into detail about Denise and her husband. All I said was Denise felt betrayed by her husband and they ended up back together. So there was a time where they were split apart and maybe we're going to get divorced or whatever. But we didn't go into details, right? Well, with that being said, I said, well, yeah, Denise had told me some things and we just didn't get to that part. And I didn't know if that part was as important as what she shared with us. So sometimes when you're interviewing people, you try to navigate through a lot of stuff. And so this particular Optimist said to me, well, I would love if you and Rex would talk about betrayal. Because how many of us in our lifetime, whether it's relationship, it's work, it's friendship, it's something like that, where you got betrayed? And how do you deal with that? With keeping the person or talking to the person or cutting people off? And I'm one that's like, I don't want families to cut each other off, but I understand why some members cut other family members off. And there's been posts on Facebook, Rex, where people describe, I have to cut off my family members because I can't deal with it.
It's toxic.
Yeah, it's toxic. So when it comes to betrayal, that's one topic that we're going to address in one of our podcasts, just because that's what she wants us to talk about, how to deal with betrayal. And frankly, I haven't really thought about all the things that go along with that.
Yeah, and you've experienced some of that, or I think everyone's probably experienced some of that in the context in which you said it. Sometimes it's not family members, it's people at work, etc. So I think everyone has experienced that, and I'm guessing, Adam, we will address that by having a guest on who's been betrayed, has some ideas. We aren't going to pretend that we're therapists. We won't have maybe we'll have a therapist on talking about that, but we'll probably start with a guest who can talk about it and we can relate to it. And I think most everyone that listens will relate to that subject.
And I think the betrayal may be in a relationship, kind of like in Denise, where she said, my husband betrayed me. Mm-hmm. How then do you go back to trusting that person and going forward, which Denise did? And she's somebody that this person looked up to, as like, I don't know how you do that. And so we'll address all those things that's just one of the podcasts that I think we'll do coming up because of asking the question, what do you guys need from us to talk about? Because I feel like our podcast, you know, it's our podcast is one of those vehicles that we can all jump in and try to understand or support or learn from. And I've learned so many things from just being on this podcast, from all the optimists who have come forward with their stories or maybe suggestions of things that they do, which I think helps all of us. And I think sometimes Rex and I will say something that strikes a chord with somebody, which I think is great. But again, like Rex and I said, we're not therapists. We're just real life human beings living life and just talking about the truths that happen to us and how we maybe have failed at something, or maybe we've learned how to be successful at something.
You know, another subject right along with that overlaps with betrayal. A few people now have said, hey, we have addiction in our family. Could you talk more about that? And I think our experience at the Other Side Village will be a good way to kick that off, because we're talking with people who are dealing with that on a daily basis. And when you have family members that get into to addiction, no matter which type it is, betrayal goes hand in hand with that. When people are addicted and they start becoming a different person and stealing from family members and shutting them out and lying to them. So very similar overlapping subject that I think we'll be able to get some good insights from the people that are going through it.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. So there's several things that we think that are coming up in this podcast. We would like people who actually have never made a comment. That there's thousands of you out there that listen to the podcast that have never made a comment. If you want to make a comment, you can on tonight on YouTube, or you can email us. It's rexandadam@gmail.com. And you can tell us, you know, whatever you want, whatever comment that you want, what you would need from us, or what you would like to see from this podcast, or what would you like to learn. And maybe we can get experts on that are great, or maybe we've had a life experience that we can share that may, you know, resonate with you. So we're just looking for things in this podcast that can be beneficial to everybody.
Okay, so let's repeat that and put it in a different context, because we kind of ran that together in with our ideas of podcasts that are coming up. We would really like, I'm not above begging, so I'll beg. I'm begging the people that have never commented, because it's an overwhelming majority. We don't know exact numbers, but we know how many comments we get. We know how many downloads there are of the podcast, how many listens there are. We don't know how many of those are repeat listens. But we figure for every time there's a podcast or a live up there, gets somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 listens or downloads and around 100 comments. So doing the math, there are a lot of people that don't comment. We get it. We respect that. The fact that you're still listening to us, we appreciate that. But we know that we aren't getting that input. So if you have it in your heart to help us out, please send us an email. You don't have to get on YouTube to do this. Some of you are listening because you can't or don't want to get on YouTube. Some of you only listen to us in the car, so it would be an extra effort to sit down and give us an email. But tell us, hey, I don't usually comment, but here's why I listen. It does this for me. I like to hear this. I like that it's positive. Very few trolls on here. Tell us whatever you like, and tell us what you would like to hear that you haven't heard today, or what we need to continue doing. That input is very valuable. We pay attention to it, and I wish there was an easier way to get it, but we aren't going to be able to visit everywhere in the country. In fact, our visits, when we do a meet and greet, it's really by just by happenstance. You know, we decided, since Lindsay was going to have to be in Salt Lake, we said, let's get together in Salt Lake and meet and try to meet people in Salt Lake, Provo. When I go down to Arizona, we'll probably do another one sometime soon. I'm there a lot. We may do another one in St. George. We'll probably do one in Las Vegas soon because in our collaborations with our friends there from Hidden True Crime. So if we go to CrimeCon this year, we'll probably do one in Nashville. I travel for work, and when I'm different places, we'll probably do lives, but it's not like we have a budget and can go visit different places just to do meet and greets. But we love that opportunity. It's been so good every time we've done it.
Yeah, we love doing lives, love meeting everybody. And it seems like people, want to get together, meet other optimists. I think everybody is like, oh, I know you from this, and you made this comment about this or whatever. So all that stuff is great. I feel like we're just one big, huge family, Optimist family, right? So it's great that we can go places and meet you when we can. I know people request us, you need to come to North Carolina or you need to come to Australia. It's like, it would be great if this was our job and we could just go and do all this stuff. But, I have a job, Rex has a job, and we do this because it's helped us with our family tragedy, and which I want to talk a little bit about. So Lori's case being pushed back and Chad's trial, probably being pushed back. His lawyer, people are having questions about, they don't think Chad's lawyer should have abandoned him after he paid. And we went through all this, I think, on the live too. And there's people that have reached out to Rex and I are like, hey, we want to actually go to the trial. How do we do that? Can we buy tickets? What do you do? And so there's people that it piques their interest of this case with Lori and Chad, and also other true crime things that are going on all the time. And Rex and I have mentioned that we are not true crimers. I don't mind it. I know it's interesting to a lot of people because it's real life. It's true. And I love true stories. And we've talked a little bit about that, but Rex and I, if we try to do a true crime podcast, it would fail miserably. But we're not. We can comment on certain things about true crime. But what do you want to say about that, Rex?
When we have comments, we'll certainly offer them about other true crime situations, like the Jody Hildebrand, Ruby Frankie. We'll probably be talking more. We may have some guests on to talk about that because we do have family members that have been involved in that somewhat. So as the opportunity presents itself, we'll be glad to comment. But good grief, when you have Lauren Mathias and Dr. John out there doing real investigative reporting work and real therapy type commentary on it, from an expert, we don't have that skill and expertise, and we appreciate the people that do. Pretty Lies and Alibis, Gigi, we feel does such a good job with that. And so we'll leave true crime to the true crimers, the people that really have those skills. We will comment when it relates to our subjects, something we may know about or may have to share. We'll be glad to do that, but we won't get out there and compete. Now we'll collaborate with those people, and we have some great collaborations planned, but we'll try to stay in our lane. We want you to tell us what our lane is.
You're right.
We want to hear that from as many people as we can. We appreciate the people that comment. And right along those lines, Adam, talking about Salt Lake, how fun was it to have Kimberly, the founder of the Facebook group, and Lindsay, our chief of everything, being there too, and people being able to talk with them for the first time after they've interacted. How great was that?
Yeah, I love the interaction with people. And, I think when you meet people in person, like Rex and I had never met Lindsay and we never met Kimberly before. It's the first time. We've talked to them on phone. We've talked to them on Zoom. We've had meetings and all these things. But when you're with somebody, you get a different feeling for that person. You're like, oh yeah, this, and you get along and you talk about, chit-chatting. So when we were at the Verbo, we got a chance to sit on the couch and just chit-chat for hours. I think we went to bed like at 2 a.m, just chit-chatting about everything. And so, yeah, I didn't get that much sleep, but I'm okay with that.
And I will say too, at least my wife, Lisa, was with us, and that just makes a different experience for me. It's like, when people see her, then they look at me and say, okay, maybe there is something there, and
Right.
that brings me up quite a bit in people's eyes. So I love being places with Lisa, and Lisa's very introverted. She doesn't get energy from the social interaction. She gets it, more in introspective personal time. So for her to be there is an effort, just like one of our optimists, I don't think she might have say her name, Joe Wilkin, who came and saw us at both locations. And she said she is the same way. She's not usually out talking to people, but she made the effort to be there and to meet people and to interact. And several others, there's one other whose name I won't mention, came for just a little while, kind of got there after the live started. I recognized her from her little thumbnail picture, so I went over.
Really?
Yeah. Well, and we had interacted, so I knew.
Oh, okay.
I went over and said, "Are you so-and-so?" Oh, I said, "Tell me your name." Said, "What do you think my name is?" And she was there. We had a brief 5-minute conversation, which she shared some very heartfelt feelings and a message she wanted me to give to someone else. And then she left because she has severe social anxiety. Boy, we appreciate everyone's effort to be out, but when someone has to make an extra effort like that, and an effort like Lisa to be there and be interactive with people, we appreciate that even more.
Stepping out of your comfort zone, which I think when you step out of your comfort zone, this is when the growing in your life happens. And that may be a podcast about how do you go about that. And I mentioned the movie What About Bob, and people laugh about that, but there are some serious things you can learn about that movie What About Bob, about taking baby steps when we're scared to death about doing something. And the Optimists that showed up for that, and it was a huge deal for them to do that. They'll grow from that, and they'll be more successful with getting over those things. So I love all that. Also, we'll mention that Rex and I doing YouTube and doing podcasts and stuff, we really didn't know what we were getting into, and so now we're thinking, with other people that do podcasts, they do something called I didn't even know this existed, but it's is it called Patreon? Yeah, Patreon, where you pay for extra services or extra things that, streaming. And when we were there, we were asking some of our optimists, what do you actually pay for? And a couple of people said, well, I pay $12 for this one podcast to be part of it. And then I pay $7 for this. And then you got Netflix. And then you have all these other things that you pay these streaming fees for. And I feel like sometimes people use YouTube as their entertainment, where before, back in my day of growing up, everything was on TV. All you did was watch TV. But now YouTube and all these other avenues to be entertained, true crime or whatever it is, this is the route people go. So Rex and I were wondering, if we go on to do a Patreon account, what would you want on there that you would want to pay for that we don't do on a normal basis on our podcast? Because we really don't know a lot about this.
And let's make that clear from the beginning, because people said right away, well, we don't want to pay and we don't want to lose anything we're getting. We don't intend to change. We still intend to do a podcast and a live every week and do meet and greets when we can and do what we're doing now. But if someone's going to pay money, whatever amount, $5 a month, $7 a month, we don't know yet. If someone's got to do that, what would make it worth it for them to do? And so we want to hear that from you also. And I know some of you don't want to pay any extra for anything, and that's fine. I think you will, I don't think you'll see anything different here. Maybe this will be even better because there's more energy around it, maybe some overlap, but we certainly want to make it worthwhile for the people that do pay extra money. We're very aware of that. We're aware how generous this group is in providing books for other members. By the way, that's still going on. We have a little catch up to do for the last couple of weeks, but you're still doing that. We made a donation of your funds to the Other Side Village. Our foundation matched that. There's a lot going on behind the scenes around that right now, more to be announced here in the coming 2 or 3 weeks.
Since we're speaking about spending money, so here we go. So I made a post today on our Facebook group that I bought some merch. I bought my first merch. I went through and got some Optimus merch, silver line. But then I made a mistake because I bought the hoodie that a lot of people bought. And then I bought a shirt. And Rex gave me $100 gift card to Etsy so I could, whatever for Christmas. So I'm going through there and I was like, oh, I got some money. I'll buy a sticker. So then I bought the sticker. So I was trying to get it under $100. So then it comes to $100.20 and it wouldn't let me go through. So then I had to get my credit card out and put 20 cents on my credit card so I could get my merch. And then I saw the hat, but the first time I went around in the merch store, I didn't see the hat. Otherwise, that would have been my first thing. So now I got to go back in, get my credit card out again, and get the hat, because the hat's the number one thing that I would wear. But anyways, the merch store is cool too. If you like merch and you like silver linings and you want to show to your friends or your family members, look, I'm an Optimist. And they're like, oh, what's that? It's like, well, we listen to this podcast and, people get to, learn and bond and all the stuff that you describe our podcast as. But I feel it's cool that we're all connected as Optimists. And I love that this is all organically turned into, what do we call when we first started doing this podcast and we were like, hey, apparently we're supposed to get a name for the people that watch our podcast. And Rex were like, this is ridiculous. And the next thing you know, all these other podcasts have all these people that are named whatever. And we went through a whole thing. Like Rex was straining, like, what are we going to be called? We really worked this over for like 2 or 3 weeks before the word Optimus came up. And we're like, that's it.
Okay. So I have to give a shout out both ways to Carrie Lynn, who was the one that coined that phrase and gave us that suggestion of calling everyone Optimist, who wasn't at the meet and greet like I hope she was. She lives in that area. And
what?
You don't have to be there. I'm not trying to shame you for not coming.
I am. Where were you?
But Carrie, we've been carrying a book that Adam and I signed and did one of those little spoke notes for it that we wanted to give to you to say thank you for the creativity and naming the group. And we haven't heard back from you to get your address to ship the book. We took it to Salt Lake in hopes we could hand it to you. We didn't get to do that. Good grief. Can we just get an address or something from you? Please email it to rexandadam@gmail.com.
By the way, I think we gave that book away. So we sold that book.
Yeah, we have others. We have more books.
Hey, I forgot the books and I have them here now in the box. So we have like 20 extra books that we can make sure people get. So anyways, yeah, with that being said, we're on our way going forward with this podcast. We're Patreon account. We're asking you guys to tell us what you want from us. We want to be there for everybody. We want to make sure that you're getting what you want to get out of this podcast. And if we're not delivering something that you want us to deliver, let us know so we can work on how to do that. And I told Rex when we first started this, I was like, we started this about Lori and Chad and the true crime. And obviously there's going to be more of that coming up and different connections with that. But also I told Rex, I was like, look, we got to talk about other things too. And there's so many people that have different things going on in their lives that we need to relate to because, that it's important to them. And with that being said, we've done several different types of podcasts. We've had guests on. We've done goat yoga. We've had Optimists on talk about their life stories. Rex and I, we've had other guests on and things like that. So, and then you have these podcasts where Rex and I just get on here and chit chat. So it's a variety of podcasting. And if there's something that you feel like we're missing the boat on, please tell us.
Yes, we got on tonight basically to beg again for input because this really is, it's such a pleasure and privilege to be associated with it. It's also a great responsibility that weighs on us. we recognize you're spending time to be with us. You're spending energy, all the interaction, although very positive with each other, with us. We feel the responsibility to get you whatever it is that makes it worth it for you. And we want to honor what you're giving to us. We've had so much healing from this. We've had so much insight, so much learning. The way we can honor that is to give you back what you need also. We just need to be sure that we know what that is. So we are certainly open to that.
All right.
Beat that dead horse enough there, Adam.
That's it. I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I just wanted to mention that, we are open to help. We're open. If you need anything, you can call us, you can text us, whatever it is. We just feel like we're just one big family. And so that's why we did this podcast tonight, to open it up to you guys to help direct this bus as we're trying to navigate how to, where this destination of this bus is going with all the different things. So I feel like it's positive. I feel like it's helping a lot of people. So those are all positive things. And so that's what we'll leave with. Those are my last words, Rex, if you have any others.
I didn't time us exactly when we started, but I think we have a couple minutes left on our self-imposed 30 minutes.
Yes.
Let me throw out, just to get people's ideas going, Lindsay gave us a list, our chief of everything, gave us a list of possible benefits from a Patreon account.
Okay,
for us to consider, and we'll come up with others. But one I'm really excited about is Patreon account members will have a monthly Zoom meeting, and we will limit it, so we'll have more than one meeting if we need to. We'll limit it. We'll find the number that makes sense. And on a Zoom meeting, we're on Zoom right now, you can participate. We can have back and forth discussions like we can have at a meet and greet. And we can do that regularly. We can talk about whatever is on your mind at the time. That's why we'll limit the group size and just do more of them if we have enough interest. So it's not everybody on at once with only a few people being able to talk. We'll keep it so it can be conversational.
Well, the one I like about that is all these people that are requesting you and I to go all over the world to do these meet and greets. We can meet and greet on Zoom. That's what it is.
Because we aren't going to make it to 50. I counted how many countries there are represented by listeners. There are 50. So
I want to go.
So Zoom's a way to do it. We'll follow people on their social media. Okay. Exclusive Patreon-only podcasts. Adam and I are talking about this. We don't have any family members that wanted to be on our podcast. Well, we've had a few. Brax came on.
Yep.
Example.
Yeah.
But we thought maybe if they feel like, hey, on Patreon, it's not as big an audience, there aren't any trolls, maybe with less exposure, some of our family members that we would love to have on might be willing to join us. And so those are a few things. Loyalty badges that come up during chats. We'll have automatically, there'll be more input from people telling us what they need in future events. So those are a few ideas. Let's hear some more ideas from y'all. Y'all are the ones that probably pay in some other, like our Optimists we met in Salt Lake. Some of them pay a certain amount to get extra things. You know what you're getting, what it makes it worth it to you. Please let us know.
I can't promise pickleball lessons as part of this because it's just I'm really busy with pickleball lessons.
Maybe what we can promise is we'll schedule ahead of time and tell at least the Patreon members when we're going to do a freaking live so they can schedule.
How about that? I don't know if we're going to get to that point. I don't know if that's going to happen. Our
schedules and our organizational abilities have not meshed yet, so we've been able to do that. Lindsay is trying hard to get us to do that. We wish her success in it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching this edition of Silver Linings Podcast. I'm Adam. That's Rex. We will see you next time.